And welcome back. You are tuned into the weekend edition of the Iftar Drive. My name is Zahid Jadwat. I'll be keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. this afternoon. If you have been following the news this week, you would have seen Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula's face all over the newspapers this week, especially yesterday. She was the Speaker of Parliament just about a week ago, and very quickly, in a dramatic turn of events, she was in the Pretoria Magistrates Court being charged with corruption and obviously trying to uh, explain to the court why it is that she should not be in jail. And then she was granted 50,000 Rand bail. And so, to unpack this further, we are now joined by Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast from the Nelson Mandela University. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, Dr. Breakfast, I think we can start here. What are your general thoughts on the case surrounding the ex-speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula? She handed herself over to police and she made her appearance this week. What are your thoughts?
I think it could have been good if the president and the ANC had acted on time. So the ANC and the president of the country, they have done themselves no favor by turning a blind eye to the allegations when they rose to prominence in the beginning, which is 2021. So I think the chickens are coming home to roost. I mean, I understand that. Is it Noma Van Slovo, the lady who struck a deal with the NPA, is the one that sort of like gave credence to these allegations. But I think it could have been better if, when the allegations were made, the president had acted. So I get the sense that the reason why the ANC and the president, they come across to be taking this matter seriously is to frame a narrative that they are taking the fight against corruption seriously. And I take that with a pinch of salt. I don't think she's the only one. I think there are others, but she has been sacrificed. I think she has been sacrificed so that this narrative can be advanced. Because there have been other people who have been implicated in wrongdoing that have not been dealt with within the ANC, and I can cite the Zondo Commission's findings as a case in point. So I'm not convinced that government is taking a stand against corruption, even though there's a narrative that one of our own in high places has fallen from grace, and look at us, we are on a mission to fight against corruption. I don't buy that.
Now, Dr. Breakfast, we'll unpack that in a few moments, but let's just look at what we used to call Madam Speaker. She was now in court this week, and basically what she said was she's not fit to be in prison. This was the very same person who was the Minister of Correctional Services at some point.
Yes, I think in as much as the Constitution, Section 9 says we're equal before the law, and that is my definition of rule of law, but I think your class positionality does give you some privilege because you're citing a very important example, but then it doesn't start there. It starts with the fact that she submitted an application wanting to put her arrest on hold, right? Which is a privilege. It's not something that can be exercised by an ordinary person. You know what I mean? So I think your class positionality gives you some privileges as opposed to ordinary people. An ordinary person would not have raised 50. I think the bail was 100,000 or something, or more than that in the beginning. Please correct me. And then she said she doesn't have money or something along with that. But still, 50,000 is a lot of money. But also shows that she is privileged. But also, the issue that you are citing, that she says the prisons of this country, I don't know, are not up to scratch for her, or I think she cited the issue of illness or something along those lines as a basis upon which she cannot be sent to prison.
Mm. No, I mean, when we look at the significance of this moment, so this month we do celebrate 30 years since the first democratic elections. Talk to us about the significance of this case, especially since this concerns someone who was one of the heads of one of the three arms of the government.
You can argue and say she's on par with the president in terms of her image, or her embodiment, because she was the face of the legislative institution, one of the highest offices in the land. So she was I don't know, someone in high places. And the fact that Parliament did not exercise control measure to address this issue, really has painted a negative picture about Parliament.
Mm. Now, of course, the elections are coming up, and as you touched on, as we just begun this interview, you spoke about uh, what what the ANC would like us to believe is a clean-up attempt. So, where does her arrest then fit in into the dynamics within the ANC ahead of the elections?
I mean, the step aside principle doesn't apply, because she did not hold any political position in the ANC. So I think it falls away. The ANC can only demand accountability. Now, the concern which I have is that one of the weekly newspapers, I'm going to be very specific, the Sunday World, reported that the president was briefed in private. If that is anything to go by, then I cannot rule out the possibility of political dynamics, but that doesn't nullify the validity or the seriousness of the allegations. And also, I'm sure you must have seen last week in the Sunday World again that the chief whip was cracking a joke about the matter. She couldn't wait that she be expelled or be dealt with by the ANC. So what I'm saying is that there are political dynamics at play, because I think if she was in good terms with the president, the matter, I don't think it would have been dealt with the way it has been, because others who are in good terms have not been made humiliated the way she has in public.
When you say others, I mean, let's just remind the listeners, who are we talking about? I know someone.
Yeah, I can be specific so that I don't come across to be, saying things which are baseless. Gweramantash was mentioned in the Zondo Commission in the findings. That's the first person. Zizi Kodwa is one of the people who refused to be removed from the list, even though he was mentioned in the Zondo. In fact, he admitted that he got money, he bought a car out of that money that he got from the service provider while he was a spokesperson. He gave a testimony. Someone gave him money and then used the money to buy a car or something like that. I mean, you can add, 1 plus 1 and realize why that was done. So because he's aligned to the president, nothing was done. But I mean, the deputy minister, of I think one of the I forgot his name. But he was also implicated in the Zondo commission. But there might be other people that may not come to mind now, that I can cite that have not been affected by the
Breakfast, there was a list of 97 people who were implicated in the Zondo Commission. So, of course, these are just but a few that we can mention from the top of our heads when we speak about people from within this party who have been implicated in corruption and for various reasons still quite firmly in their positions of office, right? Dr. Breakfast, if I may just ask quickly that you hang on with us for a moment. We do need to take a quick ad break, and when we come back, we'll continue.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Fulfill your zakat conveniently with Ashraful Aid. This Ramadan, let's make your zakat count. Ashraful Aid's zakat distribution is carefully overseen by external boards which ensure its transparency and trust. Make a difference to those who really need it. Join us today to spread hope and compassion to those who need it most. Visit our website at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
21 minutes past 4 p.m. Central African Time. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. You are tuned into Salam Media. It is the weekend edition of the Iftar Drive. Joining me now is Dr Ntsikelelo Breakfast from the Nelson Mandela University. He was with us just before the ad break, and we were discussing the corruption case against former Speaker of Parliament, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. And just before we took the break, he was speaking about how it seems as though the case might have actually turned out quite differently. It might have played out quite differently, depending on the dynamics of the relationship between the now former speaker and the president. And so this, of course, all coming in the context of the upcoming elections and various sort of speculation coming out around why the reasons for her case being dealt with in the manner that it is. Dr. Breakfast, thank you for standing by. When we look at this case, I think it was about a year ago that political analyst Moeletsi Mbeki had warned that over the next 15 months or so, which was the time up until the elections, he had warned that South Africans may have to deal with more corruption picking up pace, basically, as we get closer to the elections and the ANC realizing what its chances are and realizing that it is losing control. Do you believe this narrative?
Yes, I think my reading of the situation is that no matter what, the ANC will be below 50%. That's my prediction. And after that, we will see a lot of people falling from grace, because then cover-ups. Of course, the people who have been appointed on the basis of loyalty, some of them will still be there, where decisions are made to certain people legally. But I think after the ANC has fallen below 50%, we are going to see a lot of things. How corruption will be unraveled. But now it's one of those things. You scratch my back, I scratch your back, blah blah blah. This and that, and so on.
Mm. I mean, coalition politics certainly does sound like interesting times are in store for us as South Africans. And I do hope we can maybe at some point get into that conversation. But of course, now's not really the time for that, seeing as we are pressed for time this afternoon. But then, of course, something else that did come up amidst this case, and I was speaking to Professor Andre Duvenage from the Northwest University just a few days ago about this very same case. And something that came up, and there was also opinion pieces that were written about this, was there seems to be what we're dealing with now 30 years since the dawn of democracy is we're now coming to terms with the reality that the very same people who at one point were the ones who were fighting for liberation, who were fighting for the
Mm,
democracy that we now enjoy, are now
mm,
falling
mm.
from grace. And they seem to be the very same people who have now almost, you could say, become the enemies of the people.
Yes, yes, yes. I think the political lifespan or the political longevity of liberation movements, it tends to be affected by institutionalization of corruption. So I think the romanticism of the past or the glorification of history or the preservation of tradition, those are things of the past. I mean, even since 1994, I mean, of course, the ANC didn't have, experience to govern. But even after that, people are not voting for the ANC, I would argue, on the basis of its track record to get the job done on matters of governance. But people are voting for the ANC on the basis that it is a liberation movement. But now there has been a change of heart amongst the electorate due to two reasons. One, my view is that political power comes from two spaces. First of all, it comes from the urban centers, and that's where the ANC has been dealt with the blow because of the middle class that is embedded there, because of exposure to media. People in urban centers don't vote by and large in relation to party loyalty, but in relation to public policy issues. So that's where the ANC has been dealt with the blow. But the bulk of the votes of the ANC, they come from poor people from villages, and because of the influence of traditional leaders. But what has happened is that a lot of eligible voters now are young people, and young people now don't identify themselves with the liberation struggle. So that's why the ANC is likely to be below 50%, but is also unpopular because the older people, some of them, say, hey, because we go back a long way with this ANC, even though they're stealing money, but we come a long way. So I would vote for them. But now I think young people are having none of that. So I think the ANC is faced with the serious challenge of losing power. Some people are still in denial, but I think they will come to that realization when the results are unveiled.
Mm. All right. And then just finally, what precedent do you think this, of course, Mapisa-Nqakula's resignation as Speaker and as an MP then sets for other members of the party who are implicated in corruption?
I think it shows that nobody is untouchable. Even those who think that they are untouchable, their days will come.
Mm. Well, I think as South Africans who've had to put up with this for what we could say is far too long, we definitely do hope that that is the kind of precedent that we will see now following through. But Dr. Breakfast, thank you so much for speaking to
Thank
us
you very
this
much.
afternoon.
Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast from Nelson Mandela University, speaking to us about what I could say was the biggest headline of this week, in fact, and that's surrounding the corruption case against Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, who just a little while ago we were calling the Speaker of Parliament. We were calling her Madam Speaker. And now this week we've seen how, in a turn of events, she's had to explained to the Pretoria Magistrates Court basically why she was not fit for prison, and she handed herself over to police this week, as we know. And all sorts of speculation around this. Why did the ANC decide to do this now? Why not sooner? Would it have been any different if it was not an election year? Would it have been any different if it was someone else who was facing the music? And so all of this hopefully some of the stuff that we tried to unpack and at least scratch the surface of in our conversation with Dr. Breakfast. Right now, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with the show. Please stay tuned.